called me up and he said, "Hey man, my son is interested in getting a 450 and he's been looking at all these videos on YouTube and everything, asking questions, and everybody's scaring him half to death. What are your thoughts? You got the bikes. Tell me what you think. You know, can you send something, a message to him or something?" So I thought about it, and then he said, "Hey, why don't you make a quick video that you could send to him?" I thought about it and go, "Yeah, you know, while I'm here, might as well." So something for YouTube. The first thing I would say with anyone looking at buying a motorcycle of any sort, the first thing you got to consider, I think, in my personal opinion, I know there are a lot of experts, you got to factor in your experience level. I mean, the first time I rode a motorcycle, I was 10 years old. So, you know, my dad was a kid's dream. He brought, you know, every week or so, he would bring something home from work, and you're like, "Hey, what is this?" But it was always stuff that we enjoyed. So at the age of 10, my dad brought home a mini bike. That's what we used to call them. Had a lawnmower engine, a throttle, and a metal pad that scrubbed the back tire for a brake. So my dad said, "Hey boys, you know, you got to be careful with this. Let me show you how this works." So my dad hops on it, gives it a tug, gives it gas right into the side of a building. But hey, you know what? After that, I was hooked. So I went from riding a mini bike at age 10 to learning how to work a throttle, a clutch on this side, and a throttle and brake and all and shift gears. So I knew how to ride a motorcycle before I could drive a car. So I'm not a professional racer or anything, but I've got enough experience now that no motorcycle of any size intimidates me, because it's almost automatic. Clutch, shifting, brake, gas. I know how to do all of that stuff. It's like driving a car. I don't have to think about it. So you can put me on a Goldwing, which I've rode several times. You put me on a Harley. I've had sport bikes, you know, going over 150 miles an hour. I've had dirt bikes, so I've got that experience. So that's the first thing you need to keep in mind is your experience level. So if you're new to it, that's something to consider. The second thing people always tell you when you look at these different videos on YouTube and everywhere is, do you need that much power? Is that too much power for a beginner? And I look at that from another angle. I mean, if you think about America, we could probably do with like 3 cars: a Prius, a minivan, and a Toyota. A Prius for couples and singles, minivan for a family, pickup truck for everything else that you need. But we sell a lot of variety of cars. I mean, I live in Beverly Hills. I see guys with, you know, 900 horsepower cars, 250-mile-per-hour Bugattis over $1 million. And I look at that and go, they're not even driving 250 miles an hour at IndyCar. Why do you need that? Well, then one of the answers is because you want it. So you should always buy what you want. Secondly, a 450 is obviously more powerful than a lot of other CC bikes. A 4-stroke 250 is pretty powerful. So you got to keep in mind too, just like the guy that has that, you know, 250 mile an hour, $1 million Bugatti, he's not driving at it 250 miles an hour. He's never going to get it there. Well, you got to keep in mind that a guy on a 450, same difference. You get in that on the 450 or any dirt bike for that matter, or any motorcycle, you're not just going to go bogs out the first time you get on it. You're not going to ride to that level unless you're a racer. So when someone says, "Do you need that much power?" I ask a guy, "Do you need a 500 horsepower car?" No, you don't. You're never going to drive it to its full potential, but you got it because you want it. So always get what you want. Don't pay for anything that you don't want. Another thing you have to consider is your level of physical fitness. I mean, I'm the shortest guy in the history of both sides of my family. I mean, I've had people say, "You should lie and tell people you're 5'6", 5'7". No reason for that. You know, I'm 5'3", 140 pounds. That is what it is. I'm not going to get any bigger. But because I had the experience, I just learned. You know, you learn how to ride. But I work out and I exercise a lot. So even though these motorcycles, these two 450s here are, you know, 250 plus pounds, they're heavy. But I mean, I can bench press 250 pounds a few times. So I'm used to lifting weights. So the weight part of it is not the issue with me. The problem that I have is just, you know, the length of my limbs. So that's the issue. So my feet are never going to touch the ground on any motorcycle. I mean, completely. I'm always going to be on my tiptoes like this. So I've got this KX 450 here on the stand, and I'll let it off the stand so you could get an idea of what I'm talking about. if I can pull it out from under there. So then you see, let me pull the stand out. So now you'll get to see, I'll use the stand to get on. So now you'll get to see just what I'm talking about. You see that? See? One leg, one foot is on the ground. My right foot is on the ground. The other foot, if I switch, it's like this. So I'm always like this. Now when I put boots on and I'm on uneven terrain, I got a little extra weight, yeah, it's a little bit, you know, it's gonna sink down some. So that's a problem that I have. Just my limbs just aren't long enough. But you know, where there's a will, there's a way. So, you know, you do with it what you got. So so the weight of the bike, if you're in shape, it doesn't really matter. At least it doesn't matter to me, because, you know, not a whole lot I can do about it. Another thing that the kid was worried about was he's 5'9" and about 175 pounds and growing. I said, dude, you're already, you know, I told his dad, I said, he's already bigger than the vast majority of guys that ride these things on the pro motocross and supercross circuit. Those guys are between about 5'5" and 5'9", about 130 pounds to right at about 160. You don't really find guys, you know, a lot of muscular type guys. So at 5'9" and 175 pounds and growing, he's about the right size. You know, as far as I can tell, if he's going to keep growing, there's no reason to buy him a 100. And that brings me to another point that I think about, that I thought about when my friend asked me that, is if you're looking at buying a dirt bike, and you're thinking about the long-term implications of it. I mean, these bikes cost, you know, a used one, you're probably going to get a good used one from anywhere from about $7,000. A new one's going to cost, at a 450cc, a new one's going to cost you, you know, right at about $10,000. So if you look at like 100s and 125s and 250s, I've got a 250 right behind the camera. If you look at these bikes, a lot of parents go out and they'll spend money on a 100 or 125, and then the kid grows 5 inches over the summer, and then you've got a bike that the kid's too big for. I mean, you can ride it, but you know, you got a kid that's 6 foot tall on the 100. Looks like he's riding in the Shriners parade with the little mini bikes. You know what I'm talking about. But if you buy a 450 and a kid's at a certain level, he or she is going. They've got a progression chain, at least in my opinion. You know, this is as powerful as they're gonna get. So he or she can ride up to that level. If you look at the person that has that 250 mile an hour Bugatti, he or she is never, ever going to reach that level of that car. Never. There's no place to drive it. It's the same with a person with like the big monster trucks that are like 4 feet off the ground. The only time that thing's going off road is if you get the front wheel in a flower bed. So those things don't really, you don't really have any upside to them, at least in my opinion. But on these bikes, you got a kid that's interested, yeah, let him do it. And I guess the final thing I would have to say is for anyone, whether it's a 450, a 250, 125, you gotta accept the fact that you're gonna get hurt. I mean, I've broken all of my fingers, all of my toes, my feet, my hands, skull fractures, nose several times. Not all, riding dirt bikes, but rugby, bar fights, all kind of other stuff. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and I have an acceptance of knowing that in any hobby you're gonna get hurt. So I ride a dirt bike. I fully expect at some point I'm gonna get hurt. I go skiing, I just kind of accept the fact I'm probably gonna get hurt. Snowboard. So if you got a kid, if you're a person that's worried about getting hurt, or you have a high aversion to risk, it's probably not a good idea to get a dirt bike of any size, because that's part of the way you learn, unfortunately, is crashing out. Now for me, people ask me, was I compensating when I get a 450? No, these two bikes were just deals. I mean, this was a pro motocross bike. I had electric start, a YZ 450 2018. I got it at the dealer cost, and they it's probably had another $7,000 or $8,000 of work in it. So It sold to me at cost. This bike, this KX450, I bought it, and you know the graphics I've changed and everything on all the bikes, but I bought it for $1,500 when it was on the at the dealer for $4,000. So I got some deals on that. But it's not an issue. So it was an issue of me trying to go out and prove that I was tougher than anyone else, as much as there were deals I couldn't pass up. But you know, when you're smaller than everyone else anyway, I'm a grown man, and no matter what my size is, I'm not going to go ride a an 85 or KX100 because people tell me that's what I need to do. Hey man, go out there and live a little, enjoy yourself, and do what you got to do. So that's my unprofessional 450 story for my buddy's kid. Hopefully that helps out a lot. I mean, you gotta at some point you gotta be tough enough to go out there and do it, and that's just how I was raised. You know, I had a mom and dad who didn't want you to get hurt, but my dad said, hey, boys are going to get hurt. You got to, the way you learn how to be a man is to get hurt. My mother said, I don't want you to get injured. I don't want you to fight people, but I also don't want you to be a coward. I'd rather you come home with a broken arm and a broken nose from fighting back and defending yourself than to have me hear that my boy is afraid of a fight, that my boy is afraid to ride motorcycles, that my boy he's more interested in eating dinner than he is being outside. So, I kind of grew up with that in your face aggressiveness from my parents, because my mother said, if you're going to be short, you don't want to be a pushover. That'll follow you the rest of your life. So that's why a lot of the things I look at life a little differently than a lot of people, because of the decisions and because of my physical stature and of my upbringing. But hopefully that helps somebody. I mean, that's you could also consider it a rant, but this was a video I made for my friend's kid, and then I